Woo World Radio in the house. The state of football, part 75. RIC in the place to be here in sunny San Diego on location for the Hub Football Camp here taking place tomorrow, November 14th. We've been talking about it. We've been telling you about it. We're going to dive into the flip card roster. I have it right here. Some big names here in attendance. Brian Lewerke, Shane Ray, Matt Elam, just to name a few. Devin Ross, we'll get into that. Connor Davis getting picked up by the New York Jets already, drawing attention by the NFL teams. Of course, it's a Football Friday show. We got Big Law, Lawrence Johnson, Seven City Shop Talk, Woo World Radio, representing the Hampton Roads there in Virginia all day, every day, or at least every Friday. And of course, my cohort right down the alley here is John Murphy in beautiful San Diego. Johnny, how are you today?
Yeah, beautiful San Diego, but if you notice, you can see our breath. It's only 50 degrees in the morning in San Diego.
I didn't know you needed jackets. I didn't know you needed jackets in San Diego. So.
Man.
But we'll talk about the Hub a little bit. Let's start off with that game last night. The NC State connection taking care of business there. That is Phillip Rivers, Nyheim Hines. The Colts clobbered the Titans, and I knew this had a real possibility, Big Law, because I saw the pregame show. Everybody picked the Colts. And then I said, well, we know. I mean, everybody picked the Titans. And I said, we know what's going to happen. The Colts are going to win. And they won this one by a pretty wide margin. I mean, this was pretty convincing.
Well, it's a typical Phillip Rivers kind of a thing. He always kind of gets it going later in the year. He's always been the kind of quarterback, where you're like, man, what's going on with his arm? He's shot putting, he throws the ball. It looks awkward coming out. Been his story about him his whole career. But usually towards the end of the year, and I guess more comfortable he gets, Phillip Rivers always tends to deliver later in the year. Now, I'm not saying playoff-wise he delivers, but he'll always get the offense cooking towards later in the year. And also Nyheim Hines, who seems like he's starting to really come into his own. A stud, from NC State. They had a 2 or 3 back combo when he was there, so you really didn't see a ton of him as far as him being the exclusive back. But he's an animal. He's a stud. He's starting to come on. And, of course, this was all done without T.Y., correct? Hilton's not back yet, correct? So
yeah, Michael Pittman stepping up in a big way.
Yeah, Michael Pittman stepping up. And who's to say, well, how good this offense and how this team could be when you do get a man like T.Y. back?
Yeah, and Jonathan Taylor has provided absolutely nothing. Another clunker from him. I think the one kind of underlining takeaway here. I'll go over to John for this one. Is like, so Phillip Rivers passes Dan Marino in all-time passing yardage, and so like, okay, you look at Phillip Rivers' stats and you say, man, those are some Hall of Fame numbers. But then if you start to think about the Hall of Fame, like Phillip Rivers is going to be right next to Dan Marino. Like that's what doesn't sit well with me in terms of like viewing Phillip Rivers as a Hall of Famer. It's like those are just two different, completely caliber players. I don't even think Phillip Rivers is in the same stratosphere as a Dan Marino.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it, whether it's right or wrong, is that in the same exact time frame and in the same exact draft year, both of those other two guys have Super Bowl rings. So to me, this is another one of those scenarios of, for me only, does he need to win one or at least get to one to then kind of put it over the hump? I would say at least get to one. I'm okay with him losing it like Marino did, but then at least get to one and put yourself on the map with those other two guys. If not, if you're then saying Hall of Fame, and not Hall of really, really good, or Hall of sometimes above average, to great, because some of those seasons are really above average and great, and they had their opportunities. They were the best team one year when New England beat them. I think that's 2007, right? You knew they were the best team, pretty much in football that year. But it comes back to, kind of like those Vikings years with all the stats, 1,000-yard rusher, receivers, tight end, the quarterback play with 4,000 to 5,000 yards and 25, 30 touchdowns. But if you're playing in that era and Eli Manning's did what he did and Roethlisberger did what he has done, to date, then to me the difference maker can't be all three of them not Hall of Famers if one guy's missing that one component. So fair or unfair, I think there might be a lot of people, that might lean in that direction. And if he is getting in, I don't see it being, 5 years after he retires. It's probably more 6, 7, or 8.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you want to stick him in the Chargers Hall of Fame, stick him next to Stan Humphries. Okay, that's where Philip Rivers belongs. All right, the state of football going around the league, of course, here on location, the Hub San Diego edition, broadcasting live. Hey, shout out to Joe DeLeon yesterday for holding it down, throwing him into the fire. He did a great job there with Dane Vandernat and Neil Stratton yesterday. We've got Joe DeLeon filling in again tomorrow. As will be on the Hub, Ryan Roberts and Zach from the Dynasty Draft Room will be joining them. So some fresh blood, some young bucks taking over for the Grizzly veterans on the Draft Tailgate show tomorrow. We're talking about great Hall of Fame or QB classes, and obviously, Marino was in that great one with Elway and Kelly, and of course Ken O'Brien. And Rivers, you had Big Ben and Eli, and now we're starting to see every decade or so for this generation, it's now Tua versus Herbert, Chargers at Dolphins. John, the Chargers have lost 6 games. I think they've all come by 1 score or less, and here are the Dolphins looking to really capitalize on a weak, soft spot in their schedule and make a legitimate run here in the AFC East. But let's begin with this young rookie QB duel. If you're building a team today and you have to choose one of these young, talented quarterbacks, obviously Tua has a shorter body of work. They're both relatively young. Who do you like here in the early going?
Well, I mean, the one thing you have to look at that so far is the telltale difference. Neither one of them is turning it over. I mean, Herbert obviously playing a lot more games, and you can tell with the volume of passing, that they've been doing, and the factor that he too has had, kind of different guys in the mix. Last week it was almost the Donald Parham show, at the end of the game. He's had different guys, there, and the guys he's gone against, right? You face Tom Brady, you play against Drew Brees. None of these matchups or any of these situations have looked too big for him. And the other thing that hasn't looked too big is when you see the answers this kid is giving Sundays after and Monday nights after losing the game, and then more importantly, Wednesday or Thursday when talking about the next opponent, the next thing, the factor that they have lost these games, right? They've lost all their games by 4 points is the average margin of loss, which would go down as tied for the least amount of points separating your losses, in recent memory. There's 2 or 3 other teams, have pulled off a similar feat. This doesn't look like any of it's too big for him. Now, the thing that Tua, and that's kind of what I thought, kind of hedging my bet when I said, last month that Miami could keep going on a run like this, even with Tua, is these guys really seem to be playing with and for him, right? There's a different energy level. It's just different how they're playing in these circumstances. And last week, I think the thing that could have turned the tide here toward Tua is that you're on the road against another up-and-coming really good team that has, kind of gone through some of the things already that you have, because Kyler Murray is in year 2, right, on about game 20 of his career, and they come down and score, and now you come right back down the field and score to make that game 31-31 with the pass that he made. Now, it's a great catch and everything, but still making that, play, coming back and kicking that field goal. And then, okay, I understand that it might be on the head coach to make better decisions for Arizona, but you got to say that what he showed you last week, if he were to do that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, then I'm going to continue leaning toward Tua over Herbert. If you're just saying injuries and everything else aside, what you're seeing out of raising the expectation while developing, again, I can't say enough good things about, Chris Greer, Anthony Hunt, and, Brian Flores, because you were rebuilding while improving, and now you're improving and raising the bar every week to say, like, hey, again, we're only a game behind Buffalo, and we play Buffalo at the end of the season because Buffalo has a game in hand. So if you're within a game and then you're playing Buffalo, end of the season, hey, I don't think that you could have asked the Miami Dolphins if they saw themselves in this situation this early. I'm kind of doubtful unless, you got them really behind the scenes and they said, like, this is why you drafted Tua. is to have that instant turnaround. This is why you draft the Kyler Murray, right? This is why you drafted Joe Burrow. And in San Diego's case, I know it hasn't won on the field yet, but this is why you go after your guy, even if he wasn't your number one guy. If you saw what you saw out of him, this is why you do it, because it also is showing you can win football games with different attitudes and different approaches, because Tua is one type of personality. Joe Burrow is a very different one. Sure. And then Justin Herbert is another one. So everybody may have ended up in their right chair. I would say Tua for me, if it's Herbert and Tua, and Burrow for me if it was all three.
Yeah, I mean, you could flip a coin here. I like Herbert so far from what I've seen early on, so that's going to be my guy. But, I mean, this is the best-looking Dolphins team that I've seen in quite some time. All right, you mentioned Kyler Murray, and there's another good quarterback matchup with the Bills, 7-2, traveling across country to Arizona in the desert, Big Law, 5-3, coming off of that disappointing loss against Tua and the Dolphins. Kyler Murray is not the kind of person you really want to face on a revenge game. And Josh Allen, to me, is still kind of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. How do you see this one shaking out? And whoever wins this game, I think, has seriously placed themselves as a contender.
Yeah. Well, I look at it as Buffalo has a better overall team. But when I'm looking at the quarterback per se, if we're looking at Kyler versus Josh, I like Kyler better. Just for the simple fact that the offense that he is in totally gives, it uses every skill that he has to a T, to its maximum. And I know that Josh is, like you said, he's doing the Jekyll and Hyde thing, and the guy has everything. He can, like I said, he can throw a strawberry through a battleship. He has a howitzer for an arm. I mean, the guy is everything you would.
Did we just lose Big Law? That's the trifecta for the week. I went down in the beginning of the week. John went down in the middle of the week, and we cap it off with Big Law at the end of the week. But I think the kind of story that probably will go maybe not unreported, because I have seen it out there, is what the Buffalo Bills fans did for Josh Allen's grandmother. I think they raised over like $300,000 for the funeral expenses, and it seemed to go a long way with Josh Allen saying, hey, I want to spend the rest of my career in Buffalo. We got Big Law. Let's pop him back up there. Go ahead, Big Law. Samantha, where's our super producer behind the scenes? Hey, there you go, Big Law. You're back in the mix. Big Law, do we have you? All right. Well, we'll work on
him.
Do we have Big Law? Anyway, this is going to be a game, I believe, where, John and myself are kind of tied in the standings still. And I have a feeling this is where I'm going to make up a game, aren't I, John?
You could go either way. You could go either way here, because you could go with what your heart tells you, or you could just go with what your mind tells you. And, down the stretch a couple of times, just kind of let it be that if you lose, I lose, and you keep it at one instead of going for the gusto. But I think, this is an interesting game more for the factor of, and they were mentioning it last night, when you take the next group of teams, and the Colts have now moved themselves into that next group of teams because the offense is starting to come around. You're getting Pittman back. You got a little bit of T.Y. Hilton. He was on a pitch count, only a couple of catches, no big plays yet. But all of a sudden, when you look at, they have three receivers with what Pascal has done. You have two tight ends when you have Doyle active with, Mo Alley Cox. And now you've gotten the benefit of Nyheim Hines has been there the whole season, making plays from week one, to yesterday. Jordan Wilkins has come back and given you a serviceable guy at 4.5 yards a carry. So you can wait it out for Taylor to kind of figure out as a rookie, when to just hit the hole, when not to be bouncing it outside all the time. And hey, some of those fumbles, right? We talked about it last night, kind of off the air. The fumbles were his only thing really that you were looking at collegiately that would have stuck out for a player of his magnitude and the production he had. So I think when you're looking at their offensive line, the Colts, Titans, and Bills are kind of fighting to be that third best offense, kind of there in the AFC. Now, can the Raiders jump into that mix in the next couple of weeks? They certainly have the firepower, to do that, but do they have the offensive line play on a regular basis to do that? So to me, the thing that the Bills need to do here, and actually so do the Cardinals after you saw last week, is, hey, it can't just be the quarterback as your leading rusher. Your best running back cannot be your starting quarterback, because you saw last week the Miami Dolphins were praying, just hand the ball off at the end of the game. Don't let it be Kyler Murray that beats us with his legs. And when they went to plan B, it turned out that it wasn't a very good plan. And I think the same thing. We hear about Zach Moss every now and again. Singletary has not, had the same season, that he had as a rookie. If you're Buffalo, to win this game and to win games when we get into that weather that's going to be in the Northeast at some point in time, I think the ground attack by both of these teams, whichever one can kind of start getting that ground game going starting this weekend, is the winner of that game. So I'd actually be hedging toward the Cardinals, because of where the game is and how these two teams have played recently. This is another time where the Cardinals have shown twice this season, when they get down and you think, hey, Arizona at 5-4, all of a sudden next week's game is less about first place against Seattle and more about just kind of keeping yourself in the mix. Whereas at 6-3, you could then control your own fate, win the division, and finish in the top 3 in the NFC. So I think as long as Arizona doesn't overlook the Bills, which is hard to do, they're 7-2, but you're playing Buffalo, Seattle back-to-back, we're going to find out a lot about not just Kyler Murray, but really the person we're going to find a lot about is Cliff Kingsbury, because you know what? That seat's been very comfortable so far, but last week, that L is not just on Gonzalez for missing that kick. That L might be on the coaching staff for putting that team in that position. So very interesting to see. What does McDermott come up with? I'm anxious to see that. They have not played well defensively, and that to me is why I think Arizona can outscore Buffalo. And the one team that's had some defense show up every once in a while has been Arizona. So my two thing with the Bills has been their defense and the lack of true ground game. If this is a shootout, I would kind of lean toward Arizona at home winning a shootout.
I swayed John over to the other side. He's on that Arizona bandwagon. Big Law, wrap up your prediction here. You going Bills or Cardinals?
Oh, well, my prediction, no, I'm going with the Cardinals. I mean, at home on the turf, they're a track team. They got Hopkins. They still got Fitzgerald, and there was some speed guy in the slot. Nothing in 83. What's his name? Speed guy. For Arizona.
Christian Kirk.
Can't remember. There we go.
Kirk. They got Isabella. Don't forget about Andy Isabella over here now, my guy.
Right. I mean, and then Kyler himself. They got a track team over there, so it's going to be interesting to see how the game goes. But I just think on that turf, Arizona at home, they're all comfortable. They're going to put up some numbers I don't think that Buffalo will be able to deal with.
Yeah, and so, if the Cardinals now win this game and the Rams defeat the Seahawks, then we have a 3-way tie in the NFC West. We'll move on, though, to the Buccaneers, 6-3, at Carolina, 3-6, Big Law. I was expecting big things out of the Bucs last week. I thought Antonio Brown was going to inject even more momentum into the propelling of the Buccaneers. High octane offense. And so, now I'm starting to wonder what Bucs team is going to show up. I think these two teams played just a couple weeks ago with the Panthers almost pulling it out, if I remember correctly. How do you see the Buccaneers at the Panthers? Do the Bucs rebound here?
I absolutely think the Bucs rebound. If you know anything about Tom Brady, you know that he's a great rebound quarterback. If he loses a game, it just makes him go back to the lab and study harder, figure out what the holes in the defenses are that he's going to play next, and just be a better Tom Brady, which is hard to say, but the guy is an animal. He's a robot. He'll figure out a way to beat you, and he never takes losing well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if Tom Brady can get the offense on track and see how many passes he's going to throw to Antonio Brown. Is it really going to obstruct or change the rhythm of what he was trying to build there with some of the other guys? I know Evans has been hurt. The big guy's been hurt. And, they haven't been able to really get on rhythm with him for the season, for as the season's gone on. But, Carolina with Teddy Bridgewater and those receivers, Robbie Anderson, they do pose a threat. They can get down the field on you. Believe it or not, Teddy Bridgewater is throwing the ball down the field. But I don't know if they have enough to beat the Buccaneers, especially coming off of a bad game. I think Tom Brady is the kind of leader, as he always has been, is to rally the troops. We're not going to lose like that again. Let's get it together. Let's go on a run. And it's late in the season. He always goes on runs late in the season. So I'm looking forward to seeing him do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bucs are going to bounce back here. Christian McCaffrey out for the Panthers. Look for Christian Samuel to have another. Yeah, and that means Christian Samuel is going to be lining up backfield, wide receiver, slot. I like what Curtis Samuel. I'm sorry, Samuel, Ohio State guy. He's going to be on the prowl. And to your point, Big Law, you wonder now because that offense was such in a rhythm. Like Scotty Miller was kind of the clutch go-to guy emerging. They've got Godwin. Gronk was starting to heat up down the seam routes and grabbing balls. Now you throw in AB, who, oh, by the way, is sharing a car ride to and from practice every day with Brady now. It's like, how much is Brady now feeling the pressure to kind of force balls in his direction? Whereas we saw last week, Drew Brees just dismantled the Buccaneers defense, spraying the ball. I think he might have hit 12 different guys. And now you've got the Saints at home, John, taking on the 49ers, looking to just basically stick a fork in the NFC defending champions here if they go down to 4-6, and the Saints will be in a driver's seat at 7-2.
Yeah, I think here's an opportunity, after what you saw last weekend in terms of, that was total dominant. There's probably very little chance, unless it's somebody who plays against the Jets the rest of the way, for somebody to dominate a game in all phases the way that Saints game went, right? Yeah. The Bucs setting a record that you don't want to ever set, which is least amount of runs in a game with 40 plus minutes of time of possession, really just kind of put the hammer, down on the Bucs. And in all reality, there's your way to win, with defense. If you're the Saints this year, which is get them down by enough that a couple of deep plays, a couple of shots that Brady, might have been able to complete, wouldn't have made a big enough impact. And the other one is in the past month, beside Drew Brees being top 3 in quarterback rating in the past 5 weeks, the other thing the Saints are now is number 1 in quarterback sacks, pressures combined in the past 5 weeks. The Saints are number 1 in the league in that category, which, hey, the best thing to kind of fix your back end is to have your front doing damage like that, and you want to look at, we mentioned a lot of other, possible midseason award winners. Trey Hendrickson as most improved player. Trey Hendrickson in the top 5 in sacks, individually, that's a hell of an accomplishment. When you're in there with Davenport, Cam Jordan, you're in there with Omanyata, and last week it just shows you, if you can bring that pass rush in waves, you can create trouble no matter who is at quarterback. And to me, that's what the Niners don't have. They have some issues on the back end because of injuries. You don't have Sherman back yet. I would expect a lot more of Latavius Murray and kind of more of a ground game there. Do some things, continue to do things with Taysom, Hill the way you have. And I think the Saints can cruise to a fairly easy victory here, because the thing you've seen, whether it's Beathard or Mullins, they just turn the ball over at the worst times, and they put it up for grabs in situations they have no business doing that with. And when you don't have a full complement of your players, I think that's a struggle point. I think, again, here's a really good matchup for what the Saints need to improve on moving forward. Brandon Ayuk, one-on-one against Marcus Lattimore. How do they play when they're playing against younger guys that they have not seen yet and have not given them any trouble? Because we've seen one thing for sure, and we may see it again if they play a third time. Mike Evans' kryptonite somehow has been the Saints' defense. He now has 5 total catches on over 200 reps in his last 3 to 4 outings against the Saints. So they have neutralized one of the best receivers in the league. But here you are the following week.
Well, how much time are you spending on Pro Football Focus to go find that stat?
Hey, you got to bring something to the table. I want to get some good games. You're talking about AB and Scotty Miller. We add Big Law to the mix, and you give me the Saints and the Niners. I got to bring some good stats, so you give me some good games. You give me the blowouts, you give Big Law the layups. Big Law must be riding to the station with you.
Kangaroo.
You mentioned from the front to the back, all my people, where you at? Wu-Tang World Radio. Make sure you go check out Big Law, Lawrence Johnson, of course, 7 City Shop Talk, Woo World Radio here each and every Friday, Football Friday edition, of course, brought to you by the NFLDraftBible.com. Are you a disciple yet? What are you waiting for? We've got rankings. We've got scouting reports. We got mock drafts. We got the best analysts in the business. Unlock the magic. Take advantage, 50% off. Use our promo code Familia50. Oh, by the way, that's also valid for the Baldy's Breakdowns, which is coming up Wednesday. He'll be doing edge rushers. Tonight, we have Friday Night Scout School. You want to learn how to break down some running backs. They've got some guys lined up there. David Turner and Ryan Roberts going on. So Familia 50, and you will get instant access to all of our updated big board rankings, 1,000 players graded there. We've got about 350 scouting reports that we're adding to the daily rotation. So, hey, support the cause. We're the largest and most accurate independent scouting service on the planet since 2002. It's what we do. Of course, Ric Serritella, John Murphy on location here in beautiful San Diego. The sun is just starting to rise in the hills over here. I see it coming up. Of course, tomorrow, the Hub in San Diego, we're going to talk about that roster and some of the players who are participating there. But now we're going to shift gears over to the NCAA college football landscape. Quickly here, some games on tap for tonight. By the way, Boise State taking care of business, manhandling Colorado State on the blue turf there last night. And, we were talking about it, John, while we were watching the game. Just goes to show what a good team BYU could possibly be. And I saw the college football playoff this morning announce that they're now considering delaying the playoffs. The real conversation to me, just like they're entertaining expanding the playoffs in the NFL, they expanded the playoffs in MLB. They expanded it, I think, in all the sports due to the COVID. I'm starting to think now this is the year, as we mentioned off the air, John, experiment maybe with a little bit of college football playoff expansion because, oh, by the way, BYU's undefeated. Oh, by the way, Cincinnati's undefeated. And we'll start off there. John's feelings are going to be hurt because I gave Big Law the good game again. But ECU at number 7, Cincinnati, Big Law, the Bearcats, are they a legitimate contender here or what?
Yeah, the Bearcats are a legitimate contender. This is 2020, man. Anything can happen. I mean, I see just explosive offenses, is the way to go this year. If you have an explosive offense, you can do anything. Clemson lost, okay? I know it was Notre Dame, but Clemson lost, all right? 4 and 5 stars all up and down the roster. So anyone can take an L. And, I really want to see how this year plays out. And like you said, the expansion is the way to go. The question is, what is the correct number? Is it 8? Is it 10? Is it 12? Is it 16? It's really the question if you're going to go for expansion. And my guys down there at ECU, my man John Smith, my 7 City Shop Talk No Quarter brand, does a hell of a job for me down there, covers them for me. And it pulls at my heartstrings to see this team lose some of the ways that they have this year. And they got an incredible quarterback down there, Holton Ahlers. He's an animal, big kid, Tebow-esque with the lefty with an arm. I'm kind of thinking that he is, he just needs a little bit more help. I think the defense needs to play better, to even be competitive, to play with this team. But Cincinnati's just too explosive. I think that they're building the pedigree kind of like a Central Florida is. Now, this could be a little bit of a trap game because Central Florida is on the way next week. So they need to go ahead and take care of business right now and beat ECU before the Central Florida game because that could be their Waterloo. They could get there and lose that game next week. And I just want to see how they handle that tonight. But good luck to my Pirates. I got to say that.
Well, they're going to be a little shorthanded because that offensive line is suddenly now abandoning the team. And I think, that's the one guy, Deontay Smith, on the NFL radar. We talked about it last night off the air. a lot of good conversation going on off the air. But Deontay Smith coming into camp under 275 as an offensive lineman, man, you better start eating your Wheaties, brother.
Yeah.
Please, something,
Yeah.
potatoes, milk, something. Get it in the system. So ECU at number 7, Cincinnati. That one on ESPN2, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Also tonight, 7 o'clock. This one on Fox Sports. Iowa at Minnesota. John, a Big Ten matchup on the docket.
Yeah, if Minnesota wants to rebound and have any shot of a good season, this is a huge matchup for them. Obviously, did not come out the way they expected at 1-2. Losing a big game early, and Iowa has played better in recent weeks. It would seem that Minnesota, with the offensive weapons they have there, this could be, kind of that turnaround game for them to get back to 500. And then work their way through their schedule, depending on how many more games we're going to get out of the Big Ten. But I think at home, you've kind of seemingly gotten your feet back underneath you, after the early season 0-2 start. I would expect Minnesota to get back to 500. Probably a closer game going into the season than you would have expected. I would have thought this could be a, 10 or 12 point swing toward Minnesota, but the way Iowa's played in recent weeks would probably make me believe this could be a closer game than what you thought going into it. But I think Minnesota has gotten themselves kind of back on track. I think a lot of the hoopla around them, and I was definitely one of the people on board with that, might have been a little too much when, you didn't have the practices you were expecting. You had Bateman out, and then Bateman back in, so I think this is an opportunity for them to get themselves back on track, and 500 and then see what happens the rest of the way. Is a much better opportunity for them if they can get this win under their belt.
Yeah, too much rowing of the boat there. I was expecting big things out of Tanner Morgan, so I'm going to be looking for that against, that Hawkeyes defense, which can be stingy at times when they choose to be. Again, 7 o'clock Eastern tonight, Fox Sports. There also, if you're into FAU and FIU, Florida Atlantic at Florida International, that one's 7 p.m. Eastern on the CBS Sports Network. All right, let's go over to the Saturday slate of games. Sticking in that Big Ten conference, John, number 13, Wisconsin, traveling to Michigan. The seat is getting hotter and hotter by the week, it seems like, for Jim Harbaugh. Michigan at home with the streaky quarterback there. He does flash some potential, but also makes some knucklehead mistakes. Of course, the Mertz train, I think, is the freshman getting the start here for Wisconsin.
Well, here's the thing, right? Wisconsin is undefeated. Unfortunately, they haven't played in 2+ weeks due to their own COVID breakout. And where did it happen? In the worst place possible, in the quarterback room. So now here's the situation. Can Mertz test clear today and have the opportunity to play tomorrow? He could. The backup was also restricted due to the COVID. He, too, has not cleared yet and may not be able to play. So get ready for this. And here's something, here's a fun name for you. Danny Vanden Boom. That could be your Wisconsin quarterback.
Sounds good.
Third stringer could be trying to bring it to Coach Khakis. So if you're playing, as much as you don't want Graham Mertz after 20 for 21, if you're Michigan at 1-2 at home against a Wisconsin team, and they bring in the third string quarterback who has 1 completion in 3 years, like I said, you're moving really close to losing a Michigan job and gaining a Jets job, and I'm not sure if that's an upgrade. I'm not sure that's an upgrade. But if you're saying all things being equal, this is a complete trap game for a club like Wisconsin who's undefeated. You haven't played in 2 weeks. If you don't have your starter or your backup quarterback, it gives at least Michigan a real opportunity to feel like there's a number of ways they can win this game. You're playing your 4th game. Can you get your legs underneath you after these, devastating losses at the beginning of the season? And can you turn Wisconsin into a one-dimensional team? Because you do have the hometown hero, right? You do see, after all the time of sitting around and letting the guys, in front of them with a much higher pedigree get a chance to play. Garrett Grochek, senior from Wisconsin, and he is a Wisconsin native, led them in rushing 13 for 70 in their, only game they've played. Is there an opportunity here with a backup or third string quarterback that Michigan could kind of put a surprise, into this mix. We've seen it where the Titans were able to play really good after coming off all the COVID stuff, and then the struggles came after. So you got to wonder, Wisconsin at full strength, I think it's a win for Wisconsin even on the road. But if they're playing with the third stringer, then you're kind of got to be in a little upset alert range there, because if they're playing their third string quarterback, you would expect Michigan at home, be able to score some points at that spot. But here's the big thing. Michigan has to get out of their own way in the sense of you do not have this year all of the athletes that you've had the past 2 or 3 years. So, yes, you do have a good pass rush. You do have some guys that have made plays at the line of scrimmage, but your secondary has gotten beaten time after time when you keep trusting going to that man coverage. If you have Graham Metz in there, do not give this rookie a chance to come out of it with another near perfect game. So, to me, Graham Metz, it's an easy pick. The backup or the third stringer, Wisconsin is in dangerous territory to get out of Michigan with the win. And that going to 1-3 with Ohio State still on the schedule. Woo. Yeah. Coach Khaki, wow. those pants would be getting tight. Those wouldn't be the you're wearing. Wow. Those pants would be getting tight.
And I think because of that, I don't know if anything's going to be easy here for Wisconsin, even with Mertz. I think the Wolverines are licking their chops here. I'm putting the Badgers on upset alert. I've got Michigan here. Jim Harbaugh hanging in the balance for his dear life. I think the Wolverines pull this one out. Let's go over to the ACC, your neck of the woods, Big Law. Those Hokies hosting the Hurricanes, number 9 in the nation, Miami, and that dangerous weapon that is D'Eriq King on tap for Virginia Tech. How do you see this one?
Upset alert! I see it. Upset alert! My Ricky in particular.
Sound the sirens! Sound the sirens!
Sound the sirens. That's right. I think the firm of Triple H, Herndon, Hooker, and Herndon. I think that that team, those two guys together, can really give these guys some trouble. I believe Herndon should be back. The running back for UVA, for Virginia Tech, who was running for 170 yards a game. I think if they can get him going, I think to beat this Miami team is to keep them off the field. All right, if they can be scored upon. I mean, they do have the talent, all over the defensive backfield and the defensive front as they always do. But they can be beat. There are holes there. D'Eriq King, who runs the fast break offense for the Miami Hurricanes. I think that they're gonna, I don't see Virginia Tech doing much to stop that. The only way to stop that is to use what they have, which is a running game. They have a quarterback who's a really good dual threat guy. Seems like he's back in rhythm. He's healthy, and the running back should really Khalil Herndon should really get in there and really do a good job of controlling the ball. That's what you really want to do against a team, and they can upset them. I really see an upset on the horizon. And the ACC has never been anything certain unless you're talking about Clemson. Clemson's the only sure thing when you're talking about the ACC anyway.
Except for last week. All right. Well, hey. Well, Herbert, I think
1 in 25. Yeah. One out of the last 25 wins or something.
I think Herbert here can really carry the Hokies to an upset victory. I saw it last year when they were 38-point underdogs going into Pittsburgh back when he was on Kansas. I think it's feasible, but I do think that, as funny as it might sound, while they don't get talked about it, I think the Hurricanes have college football playoff aspirations, and this is a game they must have in order to keep that hope alive. I like the Hurricanes here. I think it's going to be close. It would not surprise me one bit if we're sounding those sirens on the upset alert. Speaking of upset alerts, the Sun Devils almost went into L.A. and upset the Trojans on that 9 a.m. local time. By the way, we're on location in California here at the Hub Football. But USC now traveling to Arizona, John, to get that Arizona sweep. Of course, Keaton Slovis coming through in the clutch at the end to put the Trojans on top. Can he work his magic on the road here as the Pac-12 kind of tries to get off to the races?
Yeah, so you see Arizona not getting a chance to play last week as their game was canceled. I think that's going to do a lot of good for USC. You know, what you want to see out of USC this week is, hey, Slovis threw it about 55 times, you know, and a USC team, you know, did not have a rusher that had over 10 attempts. That's not normal USC football. You know, and if they have, you know, an opportunity to run the table or hopes to run the table and get themselves in the mix here as the best team in the Pac-12, you're going to have a little more balanced offense. Against Arizona, I think you can do it without that. You saw what Drake London brought to the table, you know, last week. You know, for Arizona, I think the whole season really depends around Grant Gunnell down the stretch. Played very well as a guy that kind of came out of nowhere to be their quarterback. However, they're coming into this on a 5-game losing streak, right? So down the stretch, and it wasn't just a 5-game losing streak. It was, you know, Utah and Oregon kind of giving them the business, you know, down the stretch of last season. So not being able to play week 1, not having, you know, the ability to get out there and kind of do some things to feel good about yourself in a new season. I see USC being able to win this game and sweep the Arizona teams and move forward. But I would really look at it from a USC perspective. At some point, you got to get somebody who's going to be able to run the ball, you know, and it's surprising that USC does not really have, you know, the guy right now that you would turn to and say, well, who's that guy, you know, that's going to take that. Now they have the weapons on the outside for sure. They're still playing, you know, I think above average. You know, there's a chance for them to play better defensively, you know, with the talent they have there. And I think for Arizona, this is baby steps, right? This is, you know, one of those 5 teams that we mentioned, you know, early on, you know, with Washington State, Colorado, Cal, you know, trying to get their kind of their maneuvering and their footing in there. You know, there's no, you play to win the game. You know, we know what Herm Edwards, you know, would have had to say about that last week. But in Arizona State, you see the program getting to where they want to be, right? 28-27, that 4-quarter game, and you're in the mix against the better teams. Arizona's got to show you something here to get away from the 40-7 and 38 or 35-10 whenever they play somebody ranked. You know, I think this is a tough sledding for Arizona without having played, especially it would have been a good game for them to have played last week, as Cal is a team that I think could give USC a run for their money.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think this is going to be a double-digit victory for the Trojans here. And, you know, what Arizona State has that Arizona doesn't have is Marvin. How about this? Marvin Lewis and Antonio Pierce are your co-defensive coordinators. I mean, how about that on the collegiate level? Herm Edwards, we might not have the best talent, but, man, we've got some coaches here now that are just going to out-game plan you. And, you know, when you've got, you know, Marvin Lewis and Antonio Pierce just kind of, you know, on the sideline working together along with Herm Edwards and the culture that he's kind of created there at the Arizona State, that is a team now that nobody's going to want to play, especially with that young quarterback, Jalen Daniels. So that's the Pac-12 game of the week. No ranked opponents facing each other on the college football schedule this weekend. So our game of the week will be number 2 Notre Dame at Boston College. Big Law, we've talked a lot about the history, the upset history. Sound those sirens again. And here you've got the Notre Dame transfer quarterback. Talk about licking their chops. Here's Phil Jerkovic saying, hey, I saw you last week, Iron Book, but you know what? Anything you can do. Take it away.
I'm saying like this. Has there ever been a week where you have a hangover and a trap game in one? Okay? That's exactly what this is. The hangover from winning the biggest game in years for Notre Dame, and then the trap game of playing North Carolina the next week. So as of right now, I'm worried for Notre Dame. Okay, and then you got my man Phil, like you said, licking his chops, saying, okay, let's go. Let me tell you what you missed. And I'm really excited to see if these two quarterbacks who are going to, I mean, you got one guy, Ian Book, who extends the play, really spectacular, makes these clutch plays. and also has an amazing freshman tight end in Mayer, who I think he could play in the league right now, as talented as he is. But he's a freshman tight end, still has to, continue to maturing and getting better and bigger. That kid could be a top 5 tight end pick or a top 5 pick overall by the time he comes out of college, my opinion. But you look at BC, all right, BC is ready. And Djokovic is the opposite. He's going to throw it. He's going to sling it all over the place. And I'm not too sure that Notre Dame is totally clear of the big win. And then they got to also think about, they are thinking about the big ACC game coming up next week against North Carolina. Okay,
Woo.
and the high flying offense and
Hey, now.
pounding running backs they have. Let's go. I'm ready. College football. Look, this is college football trap weekend.
Yeah,
That's what this is.
absolutely. And I agree with you. And listen, even if Notre Dame does escape this game, the path to the playoffs, they will have to then beat, even if they beat Boston College, they will then have to beat North Carolina, who is no easy task. Eventually, they're going to have to face Clemson again. And so this is a daunting task, but I know the one Mr. John Murphy is going to have something to say about the Fighting Irish.
Well, first off, Ryan Roberts is for sure waiting to see what Jerkovic does, as he'll be wearing his Jerkovic Irish jersey, in the game. So he'll be kind of tight to see which one he goes for in this matchup. But here's a couple of things where you could go into it, and yeah, it's for sure on the schedule a trap game. Historically, it is. Fundamentally, this week it is. But here's the scenario. Last year with A.J. Dillon, he ran for 56 yards against Notre Dame. This year, Jerkovic has twice been BC's leading rusher. Right? So now,
well, David Bailey, I think, came on, though, last week. Bailey came on last week a little bit.
4 yards a carry. So keep coming on. 4 yards a carry. Right?
Oh,
so
that's who he is.
Where you got to win is that you got to look at what happened last week and put the ball in Jerkovic's hand and say, if you can protect enough, you can make some plays down the field to Flowers. And now you have a game. So if I'm Boston College, don't go in here just trying to figure out a way to win a tight match. Don't try to make this, a 4-quarter and hope you're going to pull it out, type game. You better go in there and try to punch him in the mouth early and get a score on defense or special teams. You got to do something to put them on their heels, because we mentioned last week that this was all on Coach Kelly to win the big game. Now it's on Coach Kelly to get them to the next big game still in the hunt, because you could have done all of that work, and if you beat Clemson and lose to Boston College, it's over. It doesn't matter if you come back and beat North Carolina and beat Clemson a second time. A one loss to Boston College may not get you in the top 4 at the end of the season. And I think the trap here on Boston College side is they've given up 150 yards per game on the ground. So if Notre Dame was able to run like they did against Clemson, you'd be kind of fearful there that could be an option of how this game might not go exactly as planned. And the one thing that Jerkovic still has to do is, in his 2 matchups against teams that are ranked, it's 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's 50% completion against a Clemson defense. And the one thing you got to keep saying about Ian Book, he's not for prime time. He's not for the NFL. He has 1 interception. So if you put the ball in Notre Dame's hands, this could turn out to be not, an upset alert at all. But there are tracks for Boston College to win this game. But I think it's to go out and be super aggressive the way that Syracuse was. Go out there and take your best shots at Notre Dame, because where you might be able to make some noise is vertical passing if you can protect Jerkovic, there. Because you saw last week. Now, we can mention whoever else is handling the ball. Travis Etienne, Mr. First-round pick, Mr. Best running back in college football, was going in reverse for the first 15 to 18 carries he had last week. And they're bringing it in waves, right? It's not just the top guys that you saw last week. It's their 5th and 6th pass rusher, making some noise there. So I think for Boston College to make this a game, if we see some points early, that's a good sign for Boston College, because I think they can put up some points if they follow what you saw to Clemson last week and use Jerkovic's ability to go down the field. To me, that's where Boston College has a legit shot here, to make this interesting in the second half.
Well, they punched Clemson in the mouth early, right? And then they got rope-a-doped. So they've just got to, get out early and not get rope-a-doped again and be able to hold on and latch on. And that was no coincidence. Boston College is a good team. Jeff Hafley's building a strong program. I've got Boston College. I know John's got Notre Dame, but you've got 2BC in the place to be. RIC in sunny D, San Diego, here on location at the Hub. Brought to you by the NFLDraftBible.com. We're banging you and bopping you over the head. We got rankings. We got scouting reports. We've got daily content. We got mock drafts. We got mailbags. What you want, what you need, baby. Get on board. Become a disciple today. Unlock the magic. Gain access. Familia 50. Familia 50. Save 50%. It's a November to remember at the NFL Draft Bible. And I appreciate all the love and support, all our chat room people. We're just waking up here on the West Coast. Good to see all of our East Coast, Mid-Coast, Midwest, Robin Backsab up in Buffalo, the Familia Joe Everett there in Indianapolis. Shout out to my guy Willis Whalen of the NFL PA Bowl in D.C. tuning in. So we've got people all around the country here from East to West Coast. Spread love some. And we're here weekdays, 9 a.m. Eastern, on the State of Football, your new home for real football talk in the morning. You want more college football talk? Oh, by the way, we got it for you. Tomorrow, it's the NFL Draft Tailgate Show. That one is airing 10 a.m. Eastern here on the NFL Draft Bible. We will have more in-depth analysis, breakdowns, college football matchups, prospects that are on our radar. So if you're into the NFL Draft, you like the college football pregame show, you want an NFL Draft slant, little twist with kind of how we're viewing the prospects and evaluations and matchups and who's rising and who's sliding and who's surprising. Well, the NFL Draft Tailgate Show tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern is where that's at. Where I'm at is San Diego. Like I said, the sun is coming up. We're here with the jacuzzi, hot tub, waiting. And, we're out here because the Hub Football Camp, it's a Don Yee production. If you're not familiar with who that is, he is the agent for Tom Brady, Sean Payton, a very reputable, well-known person who's been involved in the football industry for a long time. And so, we've been talking with Tom and Jamie and all the good people, Don, at the Hub about, how we can make a great event and bring some really good street free agents and the talent assembled on this roster here performing tomorrow. I mean, I think we fielded a team here that could probably maybe even knock off the Jets if you give us a week or two of practice. But, hey, you talk
just
about
a week or two.
Some really talented players. Kelly Bryant is going to be here. Taron Christian from South Dakota State, who I really liked coming out of college. DeAndre Francois, who started at Florida State, finished at Hampton. Chad Knopf from Princeton, Brian Lewerke, Keller Christ, Ryan Willis from Virginia Tech will be out here. And that's just the quarterbacks. I mean, and we'll get into some of these names here, but, I'll go over to John because he's going to really know this rest of the roster. But from the quarterbacks, Big Law, I know DeAndre Francois, some of these other guys like Kelly Bryant and who was the other big one? I mean, there's some good names. There's some good players here.
Well, I can tell you guys, it's a great thing that you're doing for some guys who, maybe didn't get picked up, didn't make a roster, but it's needed. Football, especially the quarterback position, you can never have enough training, never have enough good quarterbacks in this league, where the NFL has always been there's always been a lacking of good quarterback play. So whenever you can get guys more exposure, more work, just to hone their skills, and also in other positions, other skill positions, in everything, whenever you get that opportunity to get to get on the field in front of some more professionals to see if they can get into the next level or get back to the next level, is always a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to one of those skill position players last night, Joshua Holloman. He's a legit 4.2 speed kind of guy. And this is a platform, a showcase for him to show that speed because, hey, at the NFL level, they want to know how can I utilize that speed? Well, here's a platform. Here's a showcase. Greg Dortch, another speedy wide receiver, Devin Ross, who was just on the Patriots a couple weeks ago. Tight end, you've got Eric Swoop, the former basketball player who was hanging around the NFL for quite a long time. Connor Davis was going to be out here on the offensive side. John, he got picked up by the Jets yesterday. We'll save the defense for just a second, but some of the names that I'm mentioning on the offensive side of the ball, Travis Vorncall, West Texas A&M, he was with the Cleveland Browns recently. So we've got some offensive linemen. Who doesn't need some offensive linemen? Who doesn't need an offensive weapon? Some really good notable players here.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it, like, having Brian Lewerke, agree to come, last minute. I think that's a big addition. The real thing for these guys is don't be afraid to put yourself in a situation where you are being, looked at and compared to the other guys that are here, because it's good opportunity, for a guy like him, Ryan Willis, who shared a bunch of time, there at Virginia Tech, but has good looking, physical tools, to work with, and to have two guys like that, and then when you add yourself into, Taron Christian's been in an NFL camp, Chad Canoff's been in camps and with teams, you're giving yourself a chance to interact with those guys. So I think the opportunity to work with the coaches that are all NFL staff, over 100 years of playing and coaching in the NFL, on this staff, that they'll be working with, but also the 15 or 20 minutes of warm up and the time between reps, and every other guy, is a college guy and then a guy that has, had some pro experience. I think taking that opportunity to interact with those other players and kind of find out more about, what they're seeing, what they've been working on. I think, something like this gives you a real good opportunity to kind of come away with it, measuring yourself not only with trying to get an NFL opportunity, but what are some of the things you could work on and take and move forward between now and when you do get that NFL call. I think that's something that a lot of the kids that were here in October, that's what they were walking away with and talking about most on the shuttle back, in the hotel that night and in the morning when they were leaving, that like, hey, I was also coming away with some more knowledge, and it's not always going to be, that you did everything well, but sometimes if you can take that, and realize it's not criticism, it's guys that are looking out for you and trying to lead you down the right path to what you could do better. There's definitely I think a solid group of guys here, that can draw your attention. And as we flip over to the other side, two of them are two of the big boys. Josh Avery being down from 330 or 340 to being listed at, 312 gives him a different opportunity, and then a big kid that played at a small school, Jashim, our D tackle, Jashim Martin. I mean, that kid is moving on film at his level for a kid that's like 330 to 340. Now, if you can show some pass rush, if you can show some ability to penetrate and get up the field, I think a kid like that could find himself, getting a workout or getting a shot, in the offseason when teams are looking for guys to put on a 90-man. Martin and Avery are two guys. They play the right position. You have the right size for what the NFL is looking for. It's just, I think, the factor of no pro days and no ability to kind of get on the, the radar and then have people talking, right? That's the big thing with a lot of these kids that you see on this roster this time, is that it's not the athletic ability, and it's not, the chance that other guys are that much better than them. There's 4 or 5 guys on that defensive side of the ball that if you take their testing numbers and their film, it's the health, it's rebounding from injury that they've had, or it's just being in front of the right amount of teams, to get yourself another shot.
Yeah, good eye there with the Josh Avery weight. We had him out at the NFLPA Collegiate Ball. I remember talking to his agent. He said, "What do you think, Rick? What's he need to do?" I said, "He needs to get his ass in shape." Okay, because he is puffing and puffing. And so now if this is true and he lost 50 pounds, well, that's exactly what the scouts want to see. And if you're an NFL team watching right now and you're not out here or sending a scout out here, which, oh, by the way, is NFL sanctioned, you're not doing your job. Because I know right now every team in the league could use a pass rusher. And if you're not here to check out Shane Ray, who's got 15 career sacks and 14 games started, What are you doing? I mean, Shane Ray's out here, Nazar player from East Tennessee State, who kind of got bamboozled by the whole draft process, left out to dry, didn't really get some eyeballs on him. Damon Hayes, another guy we had out at the NFLPA Bowl, a 4-year starter at Rutgers with great length and size. Um, Evan Worthington from Colorado, Kai Nakua from BYU, who was in the league for quite some time. Matt Elam, another former first-round pick out of Florida. With his nose clean, he's eligible. He's cleared to play. He can be activated immediately. And Joey Alfieri from Stanford, Blair Brown from Ohio. There are some players here who have fallen through the cracks. Josh Avery's a good one. Here's a guy who could bench press 500, squat 650. I mean, he's a freak. He is a workout warrior. So we're looking forward to it. Again, some of these coaches that John mentioned, Ty Detmer and Jeep Christ, I mean, they're going to be working with those skill position guys. Wayne Moses is working with the running backs. Eugene Chung, who played over a decade in the league at the offensive line. Dwayne Board, a multiple Super Bowl winner. Junior Bryant is the linebackers coach. Tim McTire is the defensive back coach. Nick Novak, who does a great job on special teams. All these guys either played or coached in the NFL. You think if you perform well that they might call some of their buddies? I think so. John Murphy, Ric Serritella on location, kind of being a third party. John, not so much, but myself being a third party. I have no agenda. I've got GMs asking me like, hey, can you let me know who looks good? I'm going to recommend the best talent I see. I've got no agenda. I want to get everybody signed. But, there's 59 guys here, minus Connor Davis, who got picked up by the Jets. I really think that, a dozen of these guys, it wouldn't shock me if they got signed, but I think there's going to be a handful of guys that get picked up off of this workout. I'm interested to see how it all happens. And for the agents now that are kind of late to the party, right? Because now I've got the word is spreading. The agents are contacting me like, hey, I've got these guys. 5 NFL teams confirmed on location for the workout tomorrow. So there you have it. Tom Goodhines chiming in, who does a wonderful job coordinating this event and taking great care of us. Tommy Goodhines with that update. 5 NFL teams confirmed. And, some of these teams could be sending multiple scouts from what I understand. Obviously, myself and John will be in attendance. I've got GMs in constant communication wanting to know who they can pick up. And so there are going to be some players here who get signed. Any final thoughts, Big Law?
Oh, no, man. This is just awesome. I just love to see it. We used to do a little bit of that on the lower end where we kind of get the high school kids into college. So, it's just a continuation. I love seeing and being part of the continuation of the process, helping the young men get to the next level as far as the NFL goes. But yes, it's just cool to see it, and it's just a great thing you guys are doing, and I always need more of it, especially in these times we're in right now.
And John, you just heard all the names I rattled off. There was actually some really good players that we just filled up and couldn't get out here. So again, if you are an agent interested in sending a guy, we're going to talk about what we can do to help these guys out. Maybe we'll do another event soon. We'll try to make it happen, but get online, get registered at hubfootball.com. Okay. Get into the system, because the back end database, we have so much film to go through. If there is going to be another event, get into the system now so that we can review your film, get you on the board, and start that dialogue either with yourself, your agent, whoever that might be. There's some good players we couldn't squeeze in. Obviously, we're dealing with COVID restrictions. California, it's not the most friendly state to navigate this whole pandemic. And so, that would be my advice. Hubfootball.com, get registered, get into the system. And hey, the word is getting out here, John. Any parting shots, final word before we get ready to buckle up and be around some football tomorrow? Woo, I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, one of them that stands out to me that I want to see him in person is Matt Wilkerson. Now, here's a kid who has gone kind of the unbelievable route. When you hear the story, you got to pay attention and probably go back and listen to it a third and fourth time. Could have gone to like Weber International, right? Could have gone to other schools. Got stuck in kind of the academic and the transfer route, ends up at Edward Waters in Florida. He's been as big as 290 and played some DN and D tackle. He's now back down under 260 playing tight end, and it's just raw film, and I'm telling you, it's just raw film when you're watching it, but raw film at tight end with a guy that was 260 running down the middle of the field, catching balls for them and averaging over 20 yards a catch. And then raw film when he's playing D-line with no real idea, no real technique how to be a pass rusher, but just man-childing people at his level. So he's kind of an interesting dude. Chris Martin is the agent, right? His brother Mike Martin scouts in the NFL. So, somebody that guys that are football lifers, Chris Martin played and is now an agent that's done very well for himself. He's got a brother, like I said, who's coaching, scouting, in the NFL, for over 20 years. So there's a guy that, if you looked at everybody, you might say, all right, I never heard of that guy. I've never seen that guy. But just off the bus, he's going to be one of those guys that you initially see. And, when you're going in there with a group of guys tomorrow, like I said, for him, the learning curve tomorrow is that you're getting coaching, from Coach Chris. You're getting an opportunity to work out with guys that have gone to camp. Let's see what you can learn, and let's see how you process things throughout the course of the day. And really, what is your best pro position? Is it tight end? Is it as a pass rusher? Is it trying to get into a developmental opportunity, for yourself? I think the other thing is, when you look at what they've done and how they're doing it, it's a first class, operation in terms of we're at the Marriott Del Mar. You can't ask for better. I mean, look at Rick. He's got a much better, background than I do. I picked the safe bet, to have the plug-in so I didn't lose internet. He took the better opportunity and, and stood by the palm trees. But you do that, you're on a, field turf surface, that's excellent, for a workout. Doesn't, put a lot of wear and tear on the guys. They're not grinding you through the workout numbers. You've already done that. Scouts know your 40 and your vertical. You're getting real opportunity to get coached by real coaches, do position drills, have that all on film, and then take that to the next level, there. And then the other thing that I'm interested in to get a little more information from tomorrow is, we're all used to these new barcodes and things that we do. Well, the hub has a barcode.
Really
the hub
cool.
has a barcode here. And I'm really interested tomorrow when we get an opportunity out there to get Tom or Jamie or Don, to kind of explain a little more what this can do and how much of an asset it could be to the clubs and the agents and even the players to say, you don't have to wait to get your results. You don't have to wait to send clubs, your stuff. That's an updated barcode that as you are going through the workout, teams or the agents or afterwards the player is going to be able to hit that barcode and get instant analysis and instant updates. That's a really interesting opportunity for guys to know that, like, hey, I'm immediately have access to my information, my numbers, and my results. That's a pretty cool, thing that they've developed. And I'm really interested to see what they have to offer tomorrow, when it comes to explaining that to us. So you'll be out there real early again tomorrow, 7 o'clock wake-up call.
Yeah, baby.
Probably a 5:30 wake-up call. So if Tom's on the comment section, safe driving here, and get prepared to have some caffeine for us first thing in the morning.
And you've seen more of this as COVID, if you've been dining in the COVID era, like, it's hands-free. Like, we're not distributing sheets to scouts when they show up. Like, here's your card, you scan it, and now you have access to all these player profiles, which is really cool. NFL Draft Bibles providing scouting analysis for the NFL teams. And so that's pretty cool from the technology standpoint. We'll be out on location tomorrow also doing live hits. We'll be checking in, providing updates after each position group. We're going to recap who the top performers were. We're going to interview as many players as we can throughout the course of the weekend and, eventually get some of those up and out there to you, out there to the NFL teams, more importantly. And really, just getting a chance to touch base with these guys, seeing if they are in shape, making sure they're COVID-free, and getting some recent film down, because some of these guys, they haven't been seen from. Some of them haven't been seen or heard from in months. Some of them haven't been seen or heard from in a couple of years. And so it's a great collection. The diversity of this roster, I mean, I'm looking, we've got D1, D2, D3, community college, Ivy Leagues, HBCUs, mid majors, Power Fives. So if you think that this is just for P5 or mainstream prospects, that's the furthest thing from the truth. There are players from all walks of life. I mean, you talked about the tight end there, John. How many people know where Edward Waters College is? Can you name it? I mean, I can't.
Mm-mm.
And so that story is incredible. At 6'6", 255, he's weighed as close as 300 pounds. He's at 250. He can play O-line, D-line, what you want, what you need. These are the kind of guys that really, need a place to play, that need a place to develop. And so if you're not in the market for an edge rusher, if you don't want a veteran guy to plug in as a playoff stretch piece, well, hey, there's guys here now that you can, with an expanded practice squad, either develop there or, keep in consideration for a futures contract. And again, when the NFLPA implemented the 5-day protocol for self-quarantining, it made it extremely difficult for players to get inside the NFL team facilities. And while there are being tryouts and players are being signed, it's just not happened with the frequency that you've seen in years past. There's just no way that a team where in previous years they might bring in 10 or 12 guys on a Tuesday workout. Well, they're not flying in a dozen guys, putting them up in a hotel for 5 days just so they can come out and do a workout. So here is kind of your backdoor way into the league, because the memo did go out to all 32 NFL teams. It's an NFL sanctioned event. We have at least 5 NFL teams confirmed for tomorrow. If we do another one of these, all 32 better be there. Otherwise, they're not doing their job. All right. Parting shots here. We went a little overtime with our technical glitches here in the morning. We had a late start. So we wanted to make sure that we covered all our bases on this Football Friday. We went NFL. We went college football. We went the Hub Football Camp. Of course, Woo World Radio, 7 City Shop Club, Big Law, Lawrence Johnson. Tell the people where to find you.
They can find me on Facebook. You were looking for my 7 City Shop Talk brand. Just look for my name. You'll be able to get me there, all my content. And then also, if you want to get me on Woo Radio, download the app. Just go to your app store, whether it's the Play Store, your App Store, your Apple phone. Just make sure you just find Woo Radio, download the app. I'm on 6 p.m. tonight, every Friday. Catch me. It's going to be fun. We talk about more than just sports, too. So, it's entertainment for everybody, the ladies as well. Just get in. That's all. Just get in.
And, we were supposed to have Nick Novak here. I just got the text. I dropped the ball there. We'll try to bring him to you at some point this weekend. We'll try to bring as many of these great coaches that we can out here at the Hub Football Camp. John, parting shot. Usually we hang up. I see you the following day. Well, here we're going to hang up and go enjoy some brunch. What do you want to leave with the listening audience at home here today?
Yeah, I guess we'll all be in anticipation for next week when we get to listen to Big Law talk about number 7 Indiana against number 1 Ohio State, folled by me getting to do Florida against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, LIU.
Yeah, thanks. I'll get to review the Ivy League sports that have been canceled for the winter.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina and LIU.
Big love. Big Law. Why don't you give us the Super Bowl prediction while John covers the swimming event?
That's what happens when you sleep in late, right? There's a consequence for your actions, brother.
Yeah. John, you got the Puppy Bowl.
Yeah, I got the Puppy Bowl. At least part 7. I'll take the golden retriever to be the fantasy player of the game. But in all seriousness, I'll give you one thing, and I know it's something that we've all talked about, and it should be something very easy, for even the people that are most ignorant on this topic. Can you imagine that this weekend in the NFL, the San Diego Chargers playing the Miami Dolphins will be Brian Flores against Anthony Lynn? Is the only game of the NFL season where 2 African-American head coaches will be going against each other. So if you need any other recommendation or any other information, to realize that we are still not where we need to be, in terms of diversity, it is right there, plain sight for you to realize. Here we are in week 9, I guess, or so of the NFL season, And this is the only time in the regular season that we'd have a matchup between two African-American head coaches. So we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go.
Well said.
And we will be back at it again tomorrow. NFL Draft Tailgate Show, 10 a.m. Eastern. We have Baldy Breakdowns Wednesday. I want to tell you about that, edge rushers. But more importantly, what Friday Night Scout School is all about, which is tonight. That is just now probably about 11 hours away. So you could still register, NFLDraftBible.com. They're going to break down running backs. And they're going to do it in a different way. Like if you've attended the Baldy Breakdown running back seminar, Ryan and David Turner are going to do it in a different way. They're going to do college football, all 22, and break down how college players translate to the NFL, schemes, concepts, traits, characteristics, vision, everything that you need to know. So if you want to sharpen up your scouting eye, if you want to become a better talent evaluator, if you're an agent and want to know what scouts look for, if you have a client maybe and you represent a running back or you're thinking about representing a running back, hop on board, get into scout school. We've got scouts in the league that are hitting me up asking me for access to this. They want to learn. They want to get better. Of course, David Turner brings a wealth of knowledge and experience as a NFL personnel guy, a CFL executive, three-time back-to-back champion with the Arizona Rattlers of the Arena League. So the man has seen and lived it, and he is, giving you that inside perspective, right? He's giving you that perspective from a GM. He's giving you that perspective as a scout on the road, as an executive, as a decision maker, from all tiers, right? From the NFL, CFL, he was even in the UFL, the AFL. So, I mean, you talk about a football lifer. David is just like us, talks, lives, and breathes it. And what better way to take advantage and use our promo code Familia50? That is valid for all of our seminars. And it's valid for the NFL Draft Bible All Access membership. And it's not going to be around forever. So take advantage of it while November. We're halfway through November to remember celebration, because we are going to relaunch the website here. And that 50% promo code is going to go away. So we're trying to do you a favor. We're trying to get you on board and grant you access. And, we actually have some exciting news coming for the seminars that I can't announce yet. But I'm telling you, once you experience it, once you come inside the film room, you're going to be hooked. If you're a junkie like us, you will be addicted to it, because I learn so much every week. I mean, my knowledge has really expanded. And so, we're bringing on some guests along the way. We had Bob Wiley a few weeks back on the offensive line seminar. Wow. I mean, the nuggets of knowledge dropped between him and Brian Baldinger. I mean, Wiley's been coaching offensive line for 50 years. Baldy played over a decade of offensive line. So, after you take that seminar, you are now an expert. You've got the knowledge now to really identify offensive line talent. As you can see, just so you guys know, we are social distancing. We are masked up. We're on location across the nation, bringing you the names you need to know. Make sure you tune in to the NFL Draft Tailgate Show tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. For John Murphy, Big Law Lawrence Johnson, RIC, and the place to be out here in San Diego. Keep it locked. Can't stop, won't stop. Exclusive on location.